The cold wind whipped across the exposed ruins, carrying the salt spray of the untamed ocean. Two figures, exhausted and scarred, stood amidst the debris of a fallen empire, their duel having reached its desperate crescendo. One, a young woman, her face streaked with dirt and tears, stood over the other, a man lying prone, a lightsaber blade retracted from his body. It was a fatal wound, a consequence of rage and the agony of a connection stretched to its breaking point. In that chilling silence, as the man's eyes glazed over with the certainty of death, something profound shifted. It was not the end of a villain, but the precipice of a miracle, a moment of grace that would redefine redemption itself. Imagine the weight of that instant. Rey, her hand still tingling from the weapon she had wielded, looking down at the man who had been both her tormentor and her strange, inexplicable tether in the Force. Kylo Ren, or what remained of him, lay dying, a victim of the very hatred he had nurtured. A part of her, perhaps the part still reeling from the shock of her own power, felt a flicker of triumph. But deeper, much deeper, resided a powerful, aching compassion. It wasn't pity, nor was it forgiveness yet, but an intuitive recognition of shared pain, and the undeniable truth that even in this monster, there was a man. And then she remembered, not just the physical wound, but the spiritual one that had just been inflicted upon him by his mother's final, desperate reach through the Force. Leia Organa, in her ultimate act of love, had used her last breath, her last reserve of strength, to call to her son. That maternal whisper, a beacon of unconditional love piercing through the deepest darkness, had been the first crack in the Kylo Ren persona. It had momentarily shattered the mask, revealing the tortured soul of Ben Solo underneath. It had been a moment of exquisite agony for him, a raw, exposed vulnerability that the blade had then cruelly exploited. As Rey looked down, she didn't see only Kylo Ren. She saw the flicker of that vulnerable man. And in that moment, propelled by an impulse far greater than anger or retribution, she made a choice. It was a choice born of pure light, a selfless outpouring of the Force that transcended the brutality of their conflict. She knelt, placing her hand on his wound. And with a surge of energy, with a clarity of purpose that echoed across the vastness of the cosmos, she began to heal him. This was no ordinary Force healing. This was an act of profound self-sacrifice. She wasn't just mending flesh, she was transferring her very life energy into him. It was a giving of herself, a mirroring of his mother's final gift, but in a physical, tangible form. Life for life. The wound closed, the pallor left his face, and a gasp of breath filled his lungs. But more than that, something fundamental within him shifted. The external wound was a mere reflection of the internal one that had plagued him for years, and now both were being sealed by an unreserved act of grace. The persona of Kylo Ren, built brick by brick from fear, anger, and a desperate need for control, simply crumbled. It couldn't withstand the combined assault of Leia's boundless love and Rey's selfless compassion. The darkness which had defined his every action, every choice, began to recede, not through an act of his own will, but as a result of pure, unadulterated light being poured into the very core of his being. The torment that had twisted his features, the anguish that had fueled his monstrous acts, simply evaporated. And there, rising from the cold ground, no longer Kylo Ren, but truly Ben Solo, was a man reborn. His eyes, once clouded by the dark side's influence, were clear. The shadows that had haunted his gaze were gone, replaced by a profound sense of peace and perhaps a quiet wonder. He was free. Free from Snoke's manipulation, free from Palpatine's insidious whispers, free from the self-imposed prison of his own bitterness. He had been redeemed, not by conquering an external enemy, nor by a monumental act of his own strength, but by receiving love when he least deserved it and perhaps when he most needed it. This redemption mirrored in a way his grandfather's journey, yet it diverged in a crucial aspect. Anakin Skywalker, as Darth Vader, found his redemption through a powerful, self-sacrificial act of his own will, saving his son. Ben Solo, however, was redeemed first by the unconditional love of his mother, breaking through the darkness, and then by the selfless, life-giving compassion of another, a mirror to his own compassion that he had buried so deep. It was a testament to the idea that sometimes the greatest strength isn't found in what we do for ourselves, but in the love we are willing to give and the love we are humble enough to receive. It was a beautiful moment of grace, a reminder that even the deepest darkness can be pierced by the purest light of love. Ben Solo's story reminds us that redemption isn't always about earning it through grand feats, but sometimes it's about being open to receiving the unmerited gift of love and light from others. It's a powerful narrative of hope, showing that even when all seems lost, compassion can pave the way for true freedom. What are your thoughts on this profound moment of transformation? How does Ben Solo's redemption resonate with you? Share your insights and reflections in the comments below. We always appreciate hearing your perspective on these compelling stories. Until next time, may the Force be with you.